We hate the use of force. We'd rather kill them off by peaceful means. Hello and welcome to Trekkie Tuesdays. This episode is Metamorphosis. Alright, Sarah, please rant for 10 minutes.
Oh my god, what was this episode? I don't even know where to start. You should... Okay. Trigger warning. I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't even know if that's real because it's like alien, maybe rape, maybe love, but I'm gonna go with rape. But, you know, it's not presented that way, but it is. I don't really know. I think you're warned, is all I'm gonna say. And please watch this video right now. I don't say that often, as many viewers of this show will know, but I really want more people to talk about this episode with, because I don't understand it at all. Short synopsis: they have a lady friend with them, and she's sick. The three amigos are in a shuttle, and they come across a planet where somebody from the long past who invented warp is still alive and unknowingly having sex with an alien blob. And they figure this out because when they translate what the alien blob is saying, it has a female voice. And as we all know, gender is a universal concept.
Male and female
Male
is
and
a universal
female
constant.
is universal across all of the universe. Well, okay then. And yeah, so this poor guy didn't know it, but the whole time he was being raped by this alien, and is like, when he finds that out, he's kind of upset, you know, as one tends to be when they realize that. And everyone else is like, but it was love. What's wrong with you? I mean, she kept you alive forever. What are you complaining about? Come on, dude. It's sex. Like, it's love. It's great. And he's like, but I feel so used. And they're like, no, you're not, though. And he's like, but I am. And they're like, no, trust us. It's fine. It's cool. And then Kirk talks the alien into becoming human by taking over the dying woman's body. Oh, and the dying woman, right as she's dying, says, but he was loved. My whole life, I've never been loved. And it's like clear that she's a commissioner, which is like one of the few times I think in Star Trek that we see like a woman of a really high rank. And so she's presented as this like sort of irrational, mean person, and then when she's dying, she's just like, if only I'd been loved. Sad face. I shouldn't have worked so hard. And, you know, preventing war or anything useful like that. Like, the poor woman is like dying from some really rare disease while she was trying to stop a war. And instead it's like, but I never had love. Anyway, so she gets turned into the alien that was previously raping the guy, and they feel kind of weird about it at first, but they make it work and decide to die together on this alien planet. The end. And I don't know, there's so much going on here. Like, I think we're trying to talk about, like, male rape, kind of. Like, we bring that up, like, the idea that, like, guys can get used too, and how they're treated, but then we're, like, okay with it. So it's not really like they're analyzing it. Star Trek does this thing where they, like, bring up this cool, like, very radical concept, but then, and, like, they delve into it, and they bring up all this stuff, but then they just paste over it with denying it's ever existing. And so it's this very weird thing, which makes for very interesting television many years later. And so I don't know what to make of that. I think we're also talking about women and how men have this inherent Kirk is talking to the alien, but he's really talking to women, and he's telling the alien that men need to be free and they can't be bound down by this woman, and she has to let him go, and all this stuff, and she has to sacrifice her life for him to have his life, or something. I feel like there's something there. I didn't quite get to it, but I feel like that's a thing. I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to let Aaron speak, but there's so much here. Just watch it and comment or something. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I'm really on the same page. I think the episode is very strongly gender essentialist to paint places it very baldly with stating explicitly that male and female are universal concepts. Also contains the wonderful line spoken by the alien, "The man is the center of all things."
Right.
Which
repeatedly, too. She says it all the time.
It's definitely zigzagging between that and trying to tell, for the time, a more progressive story than was typically told. The interesting thing about the commissioner, we learned later that she's an assistant commissioner, which maybe was an attempt to walk back the giving the woman the high rank thing.
They call her commissioner.
They call her commissioner in the opening scene, and then later they call her assistant commissioner. I feel like somebody made them put that in. But they also call her Miss a lot. Looks really sexist in isolation, becomes less sexist when you see how high-ranking officials who are being ferried somewhere by Kirk are always depicted. This is always the plot. It's taken maybe to an even more ludicrous extreme, but it's always the plot that whenever Kirk runs into problems, they're like, "No, you should not be running into problems. My mission is more important than any problems you might have." But everybody's a lot more condescending to her than they are to the dudes who do that. And a wonderfully dismissive line at the end where McCoy reminds everybody that now, because this woman has essentially died and been possessed by an alien, and will stay forever on this planetoid, there's nobody to finish her mission of preventing the war.
Yeah.
And Kirk says, "I'm sure Starfleet will find another woman to prevent that war," and smirks.
What?
Is that contempt? Is that there's multiple offensive undertones there that I think are all there. Another woman. So what she was doing can't have been that hard because it was a woman doing it, and what she was doing can't have been that important because it was preventing a war, which is woman's work and is diplomacy rather than violence. Spock actually says to Kirk in this episode, "Remember how you're supposed to be a diplomat?"
Why not try talking to the alien? Yeah, you try communicating before you try to kill yourself.
Speaking of talking to people, the Universal Translator gets introduced in this episode. What was happening all those other times we ran into aliens speaking English? I thought that just meant that the Universal Translator was operating and they hadn't just brought it up yet because it would have been awkward exposition or something. But, and it was just, they just have it with them whenever they beam down anywhere or communicate with aliens in any way, and it's magically making the aliens seem like they're speaking English and making them seem to the aliens like they're speaking their language, which was always a questionable concept, but it's pretty ubiquitous in sci-fi.
But we're in season 2, really far into it too, right?
And for the first time they're mentioning it, it's a
really
thing
weird.
that they have to activate and say and say, yes, we should use this thing. So that really kind of implies that everybody's just speaking English, which is also a fairly common sci-fi thing, but it makes no sense.
Well, because this show isn't really about aliens.
But it is.
No, it's about us. It's about this show. This episode was all about gender, sex, the role of women, the role of men, like freedom. This wasn't about spaceships. This wasn't about like any of that. Like, I mean, it's a little bit about that, but it's more about the other stuff, I think, personally. This is a way to have a dialogue in the 60s about gender. It is not about space travel. If it was about space travel, they would be talking about space. They don't even talk about that. They just make up words. They're like, not even, that's not what this is about.
Well, I'm not saying it's hard sci-fi where it's about science, but like science fiction is a way of interrogating society. Science fiction is a way of talking about us. Aliens are a way of talking about us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm just saying that I think Star Trek is on the like, I think it's so campy because it's really about us. Like, I think, you know what I mean? Like, I think they're not trying to be realistic. They're trying to be, like, they're trying to talk about women in a way that's socially acceptable at that time. I'm like, this is a side note, but Uhura in this episode kept being like, they're dead. Like, why are we going after these people? Come on, Scotty. I mean, she doesn't do that, but I was liking to read it as like, should we be Captain Kirk? Because Scotty's really smart. He's pretty cool. I like Scotty. He's not a jerk.
Yeah.
I bet Scotty wouldn't tell, like, the guy who invented the warp drive that it's okay that he was raped by an alien without even knowing it. I bet he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Scotty's too nice.
Yeah. Until proven otherwise.
Yeah, there's still a lot of episodes, so I could be really wrong on that.
So this is the episode that introduces Zephram Cochrane. His historical significance as the inventor of warp drive is completely irrelevant to the plot. He could be any old famous dude. Sure. Let's plug other Star Trek reviewers. Plug number 1, even though it was your idea, I'm going to go first. Mark Oshiro. Mark watches Star Trek. Mark is so much more fun to watch watching things and talk about things than we are.
On Autostraddle, they have this person who is reviewing every episode of the original series. But I think they stopped, so I don't know. But there's like a good, I think at least the first season or close to it or something. I don't know. Check it out. So other people are
Star
just
Trek
as crazy.
on Autostraddle.
There you go. That was, maybe you should say that when I'm not talking over you.
The Star Trek noob on Autostraddle.
Very good. I guess it was just nice to see that there are multiple people who are just as bonkers as us to review all of Star Trek ever. One has already given up. One will probably surpass us very quickly. And we will continue to hopefully plug away. It's a weird phrase. We will continue to go on.
Kirk will continue to fly around unplugging robots.
Or just talking at them. I like how Kirk just like talks at things that are problems until they're like
until they decide to kill themselves.
Until they decide to kill. Yeah, basically until they decide to kill themselves. That's diplomacy right there. Maybe we should try that more often. I don't know if we've really tried that yet as a defense strategy. Works in the future, just saying. So please watch this episode and tell me what you think. Please. I just feel so distraught that this episode exists and people aren't talking about it. I know it happened many, many years ago, but I still feel like, what? It's crazy.
Never forget. 1970. Star Trek Metamorphosis. It happened.